performance artists, and there's legislators. Now, the performance artists are the ones that get all the attention. They're the ones you think are more conservative because they know how to say slogans real well. They know how to recite the lines that they know that our voters want to hear.
That was Texas Republican Representative Dan Crenshaw, and he was not talking about Democratic lawmakers here. He was talking about members of his own party, those he wants to differentiate himself with, those who say things that are even more insane than what you typically hear from so-called moderate Republicans like Crenshaw himself. He's referring to the Matt Gaetzes, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, you know, the loonier side of the Republican Party, if you could believe there is a loonier side. Now, that was at a campaign event in Texas. Crenshaw further accused members of the House Freedom Caucus specifically of not voting for many of Trump's agenda items when he was in office. Let's watch.
Let me tell you guys something. In the first 2 years of Trump's presidency, when Republicans were in control, when every single time we were voting on Donald Trump's agenda, who do you think was at the top of that list voting with Trump, and who do you think was at the bottom? A lot of names you would recognize were at the bottom of that list. A lot of names you would recognize are at the top of that list. Number two is, it's probably gonna make you cringe a little bit. It's Adam Kinzinger. Voted with Trump almost 99%. He was number 2. You know who's at the bottom? Everybody in the Freedom Caucus. All of them. What you hear so often is not true. It's not true. We have grifters in our midst. Not here, not like in this room, that's not what I mean. I mean in the conservative movement. Lie after lie after lie.
I'm just so fascinated with this ongoing and deepening divide within the Republican Party, where the so-called moderates are trying to kind of dispose of the more insane elements of their party. But I don't know if they can, right? So he's specifically referring to members of the House Freedom Caucus. He also mentioned Adam Kinzinger voting along with Trump most of the time because Kinzinger happens to be one of the biggest Trump critics out there. So he's really trying to make a point about how, listen, the people who align themselves with Trump the most don't necessarily vote in favor of what Trump was trying to do, whereas Trump's biggest critics did go along with what Trump wanted to do. I don't know if that speaks so well of Kinzinger, but anyway, go ahead.
There's a couple issues with it.
Yeah.
First of all, the metric he's using is voting with Trump. What did Trump want to do? Like, what does that even?
Cut taxes.
Okay, so they did that. That's true. Other than that, what? It's not like Trump has this wide range of issues, and he really worked hard week after week to get it through, and he had a few wins, but a lot of losses. What did he want to do? Like he wanted to repeal the ACA, and he wanted to cut taxes, and then he mostly just bummed around. So I don't know. I just don't think that that's necessarily the best metric to use. I also think, while I don't disagree with him, that there are people in the Republican Party that are just good at telling people what they want to hear, and that's true of everywhere in America. The grifters are all around us. It is a little bit rich that he's talking about people being performative.
Yeah.
When, as far as I know, he's the only person in the House that made an action video of him jumping out of a plane as like a special forces commando or something. And again, what is he trying to do?
Yeah.
Maybe there are things. Look, I'm not saying that I'm an expert on Dan Crenshaw or anything, but like the range of serious to completely unserious Republican, I don't think is nearly as broad as he's making it out to be.
Right.
It's just some are a little bit more dead set on business deregulation and tax cuts, and the rest will probably go along with that, but mostly make Islamophobic and anti-Semitic comments every couple of weeks.
No, you make so many great points, because fact of the matter is, substantively speaking, there really is no difference. The only difference that we see is the theatrics, right? The posturing. And to be sure, the theatrics are different with the House Freedom Caucus. And the House Freedom Caucus does consider itself further to the right compared to the rest of the Republican Party. But in terms of actual policy and how that's carried out, there really is no difference between Republican lawmakers. Again, it's all about the cover of the book, but it's not really about the substance in the pages. So Crenshaw did clarify. He said that his criticism was directed at everybody in the Freedom Caucus, all of them, and did not single out any specific GOP lawmaker. If you're curious, well, who's in the House Freedom Caucus? It includes Representatives Mo Brooks, who is running for the Senate. So help us. Matt Gaetz from Florida, Louis Gohmert from Texas, Paul Gosar from Arizona, Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia, although she was not in office during the Trump administration. The caucus is currently led by Representative Andy Biggs, who will be replaced as chairman by Representative Scott Perry of Pennsylvania next month. And the House Freedom Caucus was formed back in 2015 by a group of Republicans frustrated with their party's leaders for not being extreme enough and for striking deals. Believe it or not, they think that the overall Republican Party was too friendly to Obama during the Obama administration. It's
I'm
insane.
Sure there are some things I don't even know what.
Now look. In terms of the theatrics, I do agree with Crenshaw. And we have a perfect example to share with you. So Matt Gaetz decided to hold some sort of goofy press conference, which honestly I could only laugh at, but maybe you have a different take. Let's watch how that all went down.
We are going to take power after this next election. And when we do, it's not going to be the days of Paul Ryan and Trey Gowdy and no real oversight and no real subpoenas. It's going to be the days of Jim Jordan and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Dr. Gosar and myself.
Let's not forget that that guy is still under a federal investigation for potentially sex trafficking a minor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I assume that he'll probably have some subpoenas for that. I mean, this is a new day after all. Marjorie Greene, as we know, is very serious about criminality, so she's gonna be looking into that. Yeah, he has his team, he's doubling down on it. And I think that out of that group, while he is among the more reprehensible, I also think he's at least minimally intelligent. He knows that these aren't serious people, but he also understands that the people who are financially backing him and all the rest of them don't care. They're not interested in a government that works. What better way to just hold on to their gains and stop any threat to the position they're in economically than just getting a bunch of chuckleheads elected and then wasting a bunch of time with Marjorie Greene issuing subpoenas to find out, who is funding the Jewish space lasers, and it's just going to be conspiracy theories for a few years. And there's going to be insane targeting of Democrats, which they're promising they'll do, and I'm sure they will. They'll have nothing, but we're gonna have to sit through a bunch of nonsense, and he doesn't care about that. And Crenshaw, I think, is a little bit aggrieved because in theory, he'd probably like a little bit of their time and attention over the next few years to be put into moving towards the next round of tax cuts. And maybe there won't be as much oxygen in the room if they're focused on, like, honestly, looking into Benghazi again for a couple of years or something like that.
Yeah, no, you make a great point. I also would like to commend you on your bold efforts in not saying Marjorie Taylor Greene's middle name. I'm gonna go in that direction. Why does everyone just say her middle name? We don't need to say her middle name.
So here's the thing. Look, I generally think that if a person wants to be called something, you should extend regular human decency and do that.
Right.
She has definitely taken herself out of the range of regular human decency, but much more importantly, it isn't what she called herself just a couple of years ago. It is so transparent that she only did it because of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That's it. And I'm not gonna take part in her little personal branding thing. In her, I almost said it.
Don't be a
Her crazy videos just a couple of years ago, she was like, I'm Marjorie Greene. That's how she introduced herself. Well, Marjorie Greene, that's what I'm gonna call you. I understand you're jealous of AOC. I have some jealous of her career success and everything too, but I'm not John Matthew Idarola. I'm still just John.
Oh, John Matthew Idarola. Can I call you John
Okay,
Matthew?
maybe I will be.
Oh, it's a good name, it's a good name.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.